Hello, this is Nigh.Ne, and I'm welcoming you to my first video in which I will demonstrate with a brief overview how to disassemble the Moog Subsequent 37 in order to gain access to the circuitry hidden behind the front panel. Now my reason for doing so is to replace a broken latch button that you should be able to see in a moment when I get this camera a little bit closer. There we go, that's better. So you can see there, I need to access the circuit board behind in order to replace this button. So the only requirement for the purpose of this exercise is a Phillips screwdriver, which is of the cross-headed type, and a clean flat surface area. So the front panel is held in with 4 screws, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. The top 2 being self-tappers. As you can see, they've got the pointy top. So I'll just pop that one to the side there. Now for the other side. We can speed this up a little bit. And for the bottom 2, which is here and here. And you can see they have the flat head on them. So just try to remember which go where. The front panel should now move freely. By placing your fingers under the lower lip, you can carefully lift the panel away from its fixed position. And just grab a hold of each side there, and we can tilt it forward and rest it on the internal metal frame. We now have access to the connecting cables, which will have to be removed in order to separate the panel from the chassis when I actually find the position. There we go. Yep. We have 4 cables to remove. This one, this one, this one, which is one that I was unaware of originally, and this big ribbon cable, which is the only one which will remove from the backboard. Okay, so let's start with taking this, what looks to be an earth cable, away. These cables take a bit of force to remove. So now we need to remove this ribbon cable. And then that gives us access to the last cable underneath, so we can actually remove this entire panel now away from the chassis. Voila. And now that I've provided myself with a little bit of space, I can go ahead and start preparations for removing this circuit board from the front panel. So I'm going to start with turning all of the dials to their most left position. This is going to make it a little bit easier when it comes to reassembling the unit, hopefully. I'm now ready to start removing the caps, and some are easier to remove than others. I'll explain a little bit more when it comes to reassembling. And you can notice that I'm placing the caps above the front panel in this sort of same position. I'm kind of mapping them out, so again, when it comes to reassembling, I can be sure that all the original caps go back in the original positions. Once all the caps are off, you have these finger tight nuts, which you'll have to remove. They also have little washers, and they can be a bit tricky to get off, so once all the nuts are off, you can just tip it over, pick those up and pop them to one side. With the panel turned over, we're now going to remove this final ribbon cable that's connecting the 2 circuit boards together. I'm only going to be removing 1 circuit board for this video, so there's 1 screw there, 1 screw there, and 1 there. Okay. They have little washers, so be careful not to lose them. And the final one. And we can lift the board out, and there we go. Oh, there's a bit of plastic falling off. And yep, there's a broken leg. Let's get rid of that. And that is what the insides of a Moog Sub 37 looks like. Interesting. Here I have my replacement buttons. You can see they have two little legs that require pinching together when you place them in the two little holes that you can see right there. I'm just going to put the camera down whilst I put that into position, because it's a little bit tricky with one hand. Okay, so with that back in, we can go ahead and start reassembling. So just going to pop the circuit board back in and reconnect the ribbon cable. Put the little jelly stoppers back in. Next is the 3 screws. Not forgetting the washers. And then we can go ahead and place the front panel back into position, ready to reconnect the cables. And we can go ahead and speed this up a little bit. It's just the 4 cables. So now, just going to lift this out and place it back in its original position. So for a few weeks, I've been searching, calling and emailing the few specialists out there in London that I could find, but no one replied. So I had to kind of take the job on myself, and then I'm just replacing the screws to hold the front panel in place. Remember the flat-headed screws go at the bottom, and the pointed self-tappers go at the top. Anyway, so eventually Moog answered, and they were kind enough to provide me with a series of step-by-step photographs, albeit with no explanation and the odd error. They also kindly offered to send me the required parts needed for replacement for free, which only cost me $14 for the delivery charge, and also received a complimentary sticker. So I'm just placing the washers and the nuts back on. I should have probably tested the latch switch before doing this, in case that I hadn't seated it properly. But I'm not a professional. Okay, so I have them all finger tight. And now it comes to replacing the caps. Now if you see inside, there's a little metal sleeve that sits inside. Now the caps that were more difficult to take off when disassembling them, some of those metal sleeves come out or come off and remain on the arm of the tone pot. And if you try to put the cap back on with the sleeve still on the tone pot, it kind of adds a ridge, and it makes it very difficult to get on. So you have to remove that sleeve and put it back inside the cap, and then it should go on quite easily. You can see here's one, so I have to put the metal sleeve back inside the cap. Fiddly, very, very fiddly. It can only go one way. If you have any questions regarding any of the process that you've seen in this video, if I've skipped over something too quickly, or you need something explained in great detail, if possible, I'll help. So drop a comment in the section below or send me a private message. And there we go. Plug in the power and plug in the audio. Which actually was unnecessary for this video because I didn't have the audio connected to the computer, so you don't get to hear it anyway, so I do apologise. Let's just check this latch button works. Yes, perfect. Bing bong, bing bong, bing bong, bing bong. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.